Okay. Oh, yeah. I forgot to update my Instagram stream key, so let's do that real quick. While we're waiting on people to join. Edit. Paste. Save. No thanks. Okay. Now we're going. Okay. Hi, a little bit makes. How are you today? There we go. All right. Hi, Brayden. We're doing chapter 8. In the courtship of DMHVW. So that is where we're going. If you have any questions about the book, comment and let me know. And if other than that, we will take off here. Chapter 8. Retrieval. Heaven's sakes! It's 5 days later, and I have scoured this blessed community for Donna with not one clue as to where she went with only her purse. Donna never travels without her suitcase. I notified the Fort Bragg police, talked to the neighbors, put posters up on telephone poles in Elk, Mendocino, and Fort Bragg. I notified the Fort Bragg police, talked to the neighbors, put posters up on telephone poles in Elk, Mendocino, and Fort Bragg. I called the local radio station and nothing. Not one clue what happened to her other than this little... Hi. Not one clue what happened to her other than this one little red book that somehow fills in as the present unfolds. I'm sitting on the edge of the very bed she slept in with the book open, reading about myself sitting on the bed, when I come up with a doozy of an idea. I find a pencil in the bottom of my purse and write in the next blank line about Donna appearing, but the pencil will not leave any graphite on the page. I look for a pen and can't find one. Then remember the front desk has a whole jar of them. I put my finger in the book to hold the page, then step through the door, down the stairs, and through the dank bookstore. I open the door of the front desk, and the little bell overhead tinkles. That strange Ichabod Crane of a man peeks his head in from the back room. "May I help you, Mrs. Cassandra?" I point at the pen jar. "I need a pen." He gives me a creepy smile as I grab the pen and go back outside. I hurry along the flagstone, back into the bookstore, up the stairs, and back in the safety of my room. I sit on the edge of the bed and write, "Donna reappears." For one quick moment, Donna appears, sitting on the edge of the bed next to me. I look down and she has handcuffs on her wrist. Heaven's sakes, Donna, what happened? I don't know if I like that. Hi, everybody watching. I said hi quickly to you. Deaf, not CC. Right before I started doing a line, but I don't know if you heard me or not. If you have any questions about audiobooks or book production in general, just let me know and we'll talk about it whenever I take a break in a second. Heaven's sakes, Donna, what happened? Before she can say a word, she disappears. I look at the book, and the words I wrote are gone. I pick up the pen and write, "Donna reappears for 10 minutes." Once again, she appears sitting on the edge of the bed. I reach over to take her hand, but my hand travels right through her and I grip thin air. "Where have you been?" Ooh, that was loud thunder. I don't know if y'all could hear it. Oh, I hear it in my thing. That was kind of cool. "Where have you been?" She mouths some words, but no sound comes out. She's fully here, but like a ghost, she can't make a sound. I look at the book, and the words I wrote are fading. In a last-ditch effort, I grab a piece of paper and write, "Where have you been?" But she and the words I wrote disappear once again. I try a third time, but the book will not accept the ink and remains blank. Maybe I need a new pen. Once again, I make the journey down to the office, and that strange man, grab a handful of pens with a promise that I will bring them back, and rush back to my room. The pens don't work. Since I sent Stephen, the limo driver, back to San Francisco yesterday, I'm forced to call a cab and wait a half hour for one to drive all the way from Fort Bragg. In another half hour, with the cabbie talking incessantly the whole way, I'm standing in line at the local drugstore with a fistful of every variety of pen I can find. The young woman at the counter, with her nose piercing and several tattoos, looks at me with my fistful of pens. She pops her gum, then asks, "What's he doing with all the pens and no paper?" "Never you mind." She huffs, rings them up, and I pay. I rush back out to the waiting cab. I figure if I'm going to have some apparition appearing and disappearing on me, it's best not to do it out on the street. The cabbie talks incessantly over to the nearest motel overlooking the inlet to the Noyo River, where I can't wait to get out and away from his unbroken line of verbiage. I can only guess that he continues to talk when no one is in the cab. I get out and pay him, then walk into the motel lobby. An old, extremely thin woman, cigarette hanging from one corner of her mouth, sits behind the counter, watching some afternoon soap opera on a hidden TV under the tall counter. She turns the sound off and looks at me. Can I help you? I want a room for the night, overlooking the river, y'all, if at all possible. She starts into her well practiced spiel about rooms and cost. Heaven's sakes, just give me a room. I don't care about the cost. She huffs. Her next movements are so well practiced, like it's some form of ballet. She slides sideways on her office chair, types in a few keystrokes on a keyboard, then asks, Name? While she's doing that, I dig for my identification, knowing she's going to ask anyhow. I hand her my driver's license and a credit card. She takes the cards and concentrates. All right, what book is this? This book is called The Courtship of DMHVW. It was originally released in 1999, but this is an author I've worked with before, and he wants to bring all of his written catalog to audio. So we're working on going through all of his books. I'm getting a little froggy, which is not what we want. Okay. Where did we leave off? She takes the cards and concentrates on the keyboard, pressing each key one at a time. After what seems like the second coming, she looks at me. Phone number. I give her my cell, knowing damn well it doesn't work anywhere in Fort Bragg. Finally, after what seems like... I don't know why I stuttered on that, like stumbled on that. Finally, after what seems like hours later, she hands me a brass key attached to a hotel identification embossed in a brass oval. It's storming here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to record too much. She points to the right, up those stairs and all the way to the end. I take the key and my license, grab my bags, and go out the big glass door, climb the stairs, and walk to the end of the balcony overlooking the Noyo Harbor. In the dank room overlooking a busy parking lot, I write with each of the dozens of pens without success. Nothing will stick to the paper. When I arrested her, really it was way out on the edges of my parameters. But I was told to detain her, and so the trumped up counterfeit charge was the first thing I could come up with. We looked for her for a few days to no avail. As we were about to give up and I take a last-ditch drive by her hotel room, sure enough, she's sitting in a truck with the pilot. I try to be polite, but she and the pilot get stubborn, so we end up arresting her while Fagin cuffed the pilot to his truck. I take her downtown, if that's what you would call it. One main street with several side streets. Fagin and I came from the Baltimore office to do this shit job. Why they didn't find someone closer, I do not know. We check her purse, and there is a half dozen more of those future bills in all sizes. The hundreds are the most interesting. I sit with two police standing... I sit with two police standing against the wall while Fagin is in the other room grilling the pilot. I keep coming back to the same question. Where did she get the money? Her answer is always the same. But I have another 5 hours of interrogation before my shift is over. I'm sure somewhere in there she'll slip up. I pick up her driver's license and start to ask one more question about the time discrepancy. The moment I open my mouth to speak, she blinks out. I mean, she disappears from the room. I jump to my feet and look at the two cops. Did you see that? The good-looking female sergeant almost yells. I saw it. The young deputy says, What happened? At that very second, her image blinks once. Then she's back in the chair. My voice is too loud. Holy shit, what just happened? I stand and leave the room. When I return a moment later, Miss Hendricks is breathing hard and shaking her head. She looks at me. I have no control over any of this. Where did you go? For a second, Hi, Malia? Is it Malia or Melia? For a second, I was with my girlfriend from 99. I thought it was going to be 1999. Malia? Okay, got it. For a second, I was with my girlfriend from 99. She was in my room at the hotel in Elk. The female sergeant says, There is no hotel in Elk. There will be. We are all silent. I try to gather my thoughts, but the shock has me rattled. Mrs. Hendricks finally breaks the silence. Now do you believe me? I sit back in my chair. I don't know what to believe. Can I go? I've been told to hold you overnight. Why? I've done nothing wrong. Following orders, ma'am. So you're going to hold me in this room or put me in jail with criminals? I stand. Give me a few minutes to figure things out. In the meantime, can I see Frank? As I leave the room, I nod to the sergeant, and she follows me out. Once the door is closed behind us, she says, Sure that's a good idea? It'll give them a chance to collaborate their story. I think we have the story, as weird as it is. I don't like that. Needs to be more emphasis on have. I think we have the story, as weird as it is. Check with Fagin, and I'll bet there are no discrepancies. If not, go ahead and let him in her room. You got a wire recorder? That must be fancy FBI equipment, because I've never heard of a wire recorders. What's it do? I think I said a wire recorders. I did. Darn it. That must be fancy FBI equipment, because I've never heard of wire recorders. What's it do? Records every word exactly as it's spoken. She shakes her head. Will wonders ever cease? Where are you going? Do you have the manpower to put a guard at her door overnight so we can let her stay in her hotel room? Barely. This is a small town. If something happens during the night, I can't say we won't pull him. Do things happen in this town? Not often. That's what I thought. Let the pilot in with her. If you had one, we could turn the wire recorder on and see what they say. This is a small town with a small town budget. You got no recording devices. She shakes her head. Not that we ever need one. Other than someone stealing hubcaps, this is the most excitement we've seen in a month. I smile and turn towards the captain's office. office. Oh, I'm trying to do a slight Baltimore accent for this guy, and it's the first time doing it. I think there's parts of it that are good. Luckily, it only has to be slight. Malia, it says you're an aspiring author in your title. Have you written anything yet? Working on my first draft. Awesome. Do you want to give us a little um, descriptor of what it is? You don't have to give too much information, just trying to take a little bit of a break too, because it's like really raining and thundering now. But hopefully it's going to work its way through. Okay. We got Issa in now too, and maybe a couple of other people. I really want to get this chapter done before I have to go to a shrimp boil. Okay, I think the rain's letting up now. That's good. Well, it's really not good. We need the rain, but are we still going? Okay, yes, we are. For some reason, Instagram doesn't want to cooperate, but that's okay. It's about a girl who loses her husband. Gotta make my window bigger. During an accident. It's about the journey of grief. Oh, that's a good one. Is it one of those that's just gonna like rip your heart out of your chest? Oh gosh. She said, yep. Okay, well, I can't wait to read it. I've started categorizing my TBR so that I know what I'm getting into before I start reading books because there's been a few times that I've started a book that I thought looked like a certain type of book and it ends up being very emotional and very thought provoking and it kind of puts me down in the dumps and I really like to read things like that when I'm ready for it. If I'm not ready for it, then it kind of can mess up some other things in my life. So, oh, that's a good title. That's a great title. Blooms from the Ashes. Grief and second chances. Yes. Well, I'm excited already just from the concept and the title. I think that's gonna be a good one. Okay. Now that I think our thunder has kinda moved on, let's start recording again. She's going to go to a grief group. That's probably good. And I feel like if you do, like, a grief group, work that in, that might give you a really good option for multiple books, because there's so many different types of grief. You could have, like, a grief series or, like, processing grief and second chances series that can be read as standalones. If your debut novel gives pieces of other people's stories, and then you're like, "Oh, actually, I can add on to that." Oh, yeah. That'll be good. So the story will the story follow, like, the stages of grief? Okay, that makes sense. That's a good direction to go in. That's a really good, like, path to travel, because I feel like you can outline that really well and, like, keep the plot going forward. I notice that's kind of a problem with a lot of debut authors is they'll start writing and it's like you can tell that they get excited about their story, and then about halfway through, you're like, "Where's this going? What direction are we headed?" Hold on. Okay. I'm back. Sorry. Had to step away real fast. But we're going to start. Oh my gosh, Malia. Overall, she ends up having twins by 2 different people. Holy cow. And then by her husband and a man she ended up having a one-night stand with. This is going to be like twists and turns. I'm excited for this. Way to go, Malia. That's so cool. All right, we're going to Frank's POV. Frank's little country bumpkin POV. Sounds like a movie. Well, that's the goal, right? Like, you want it to be thought-provoking and entertaining and a little bit dramatic and all that, because if it's not all those things, then nobody will want to read it. That's my thought. Okay. I'm going to forget this. I'm not dealing with Instagram right now. It keeps disconnecting, and I want to record. I don't want to deal with the socials and stuff. Okay. Here we go with Frank. The short agent has me trussed to my truck door as the tall one hauls Donna off. I sit on my seat with my arm hanging from the top of the door. Now what? Can you hear the rain? Yeah, I gotta wait till this wave passes, and then I can do some more recording. But also, oh no, I'm still good on time. Sorry, I thought it was almost 3:30, and so I was freaking out about time. I've got to be at a shrimp boil at 1 p.m. where you are. Oh, cool. I'm in Central Texas, so I don't know if that means we're close or not, but we've been getting a bunch of these little storms and major flooding over in the hill country and you're Ohio. I was wondering if we were about to have a weird little meet cute and realize we were neighbors. In Texas, we've had a lot of flooding in the hill country and kind of a little further south and west of where I live. But where I live, we've been doing pretty good about just having little storms we'll have a few little showers during the day or maybe for a couple hours, and then it'll move on by and we'll get sun. So everything's really green and pretty and nice to look at where we are. And I run a ranch on the side, so my cows really like it whenever everything's green and pretty. How long have you been working on your first draft? Or I guess the better question is, are we going to see a release anytime soon, or when are you slated for release? do you even know yet? Okay, so you've been writing you started in September of 24 and you wanna be finished at the end of the year. Cool. Oh, cool. Full-time engineer and aspiring author. Look at you go. I would be so bad at juggling a full-time career and trying to write a book because the way my brain works is I get kind of fixated on one thing, and it's like I just tunnel vision. So if I were fixated on writing a book, I think it would be so hard for me to do my regular job. So good job, Malia. I don't know that I'd be able to do it. 50,000 words. Wow. That's pretty impressive. Oh, good. Yeah. I used to be a really big audiobook listener too. I still am. But I used to run marketing for a company that my husband and I own. And so when I was designing and doing my like graphic design stuff and things like that, planning out strategy and whatnot, I was listening to a bunch of audiobooks. Yeah, so I think the book that I'm currently working on, not I think, I'm looking at it right now. The book that I'm currently working on is 86,000 words and it's 14 chapters and the estimated length is 9.3 hours. Um, the previous one I did for him was 68,000 words and the estimated length was 7.3 hours and my recorded amount ended up being 7 hours, 21 minutes. To this week already. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's easy to kinda roll through some audiobooks, which, is both 10 hours long. So I'm listening to an audiobook series right now that is, um, it's called Black Dagger Brotherhood, and it's kinda complicated. I discovered it because whenever ApollyCon and everything was happening, J.R. Ward had some interview spots, that's the author, and she just has a really cool personality, and she's hilarious and entertaining. So, I checked out her books, and it's like vampire romance meets, um, biker gang, kind of, but there's no bikes, but they all, like, are warriors, and they wear leather, and they're, like, fighting a war. And they live alongside humans, but humans don't know about them. And so it's like and her vampires are like a different race of humans. They're a lot of the vampire myth and lore and stuff doesn't apply to them other than the going outside in the sun, they can't do that. But, like, they don't drink human blood, they drink off of each other. They have to have vampire blood to survive. So it's kind of a cool series, And if you really enjoy audiobooks, there's a lot of them because it's the main Black Dagger Brotherhood series, and then there's a legacy series that like piggybacks off of that sort of, and then there's another one called Fallen Angel series, and it's a lot of the same characters. It's the same world, and there's a reading order for it that I may end up reposting on my profile. Um, but I think you basically read them in publication order, and to date, I think it's 41 books. And the 42nd book is supposed to come out in maybe September or maybe at the end of the year. I can't remember. I'm nowhere near close. And they are like beefy books. I'll go through my Audible real quick and I'll tell you how long they are. They are, I think the shortest book is the first one. It's 13 hours, 29 minutes. Other than the novellas. There's a couple of novellas that go along with it that are shorter. Um, and I think as she writes, it's like the first book is 13 hours and then they progressively increase. And so by the time you get to like the fourth or fifth book, you're at like 20 hours. And it's cool because there's a lot going on with it. So the whole series and interconnected series are following one timeline. And there's 8 or 10 warriors that are a part of this. So each one of them has a book that like focuses on whatever they've got going on this timeline. And then those guys are also side characters in the other books. So you get a really cool, like lots of moving parts, progressive storyline that goes. I'm on book according to the reading order, which again is like kind of complicated. According to the reading order, I am on book 15. No, I'm on book 15 of Black Dagger Brotherhood series, and I'm on book 18 of like the whole reading order that includes the other one, the other series. So yeah, it's really cool. The first book was written or was released in 2005, and then the latest one will be released this year sometime. So there's like a 20-year change in like the style of writing, the type of content that's included, um, like the slang and the way that they talk, the technology that they use. Like it's really cool. I kind of like stuff like that. That's throwback. So you kind of start off feeling really throwback in the beginning of the series, and then as you move more to current times, things start to make a little more sense. And like they have cell phones, and they have all of that happens. But she's done a really good job of um, making that transition and not being like weird and obvious in her writing. Yes, the evolution of the writer is really cool. And she does this evolution all with one series, basically. Even though it's 3 series, they're all the same characters, so I kinda consider it like one series with 3 parts. Okay, I think this set of rain has passed, so let's go. Gotta get my book back up. The short agent has me trussed to my truck door as the tall one hauls Donna off. I sit on my seat with my arm hanging from the top of the door. Now what? Now we wait for backup. Then we take you in for questioning. Questioning? What have I done? We need some answers. I don't like that guy's voice. He needs to be like, now. Now we wait for backup. Then we take you in for questioning. Questioning? What have I done? We need some answers, and since you've been closest to her for several days, you may be able to shed light on this whole matter. A police car turns the corner and pulls up next to my truck. He rolls down his window. You, Agent Fagan? Yup. Let's get this guy in your car and down to the station. He positions his car in front of my truck and gets out. Agent Fagan looks at me. We're not going to have any trouble with you, are we? I'll go quietly. He reaches in his slacks pocket and retrieves the key. Good. Good. He unlocks my cuff and escorts me to the police car. Once inside, they talk for a moment, then the cop drives him and I to the station. They put me in what seems like a broom closet and sits me on a folding chair. Agent Fagan pulls a folding chair in and sits. There's so little room, our knees almost touch. He lifts a clipboard to his lap and pulls a pen. Now, tell me what you know, starting with the moment you met Mrs. He refers to the board. Hendricks. Since it's my policy to always tell the truth, and I have no reason to hide any facts other than the stocks, I begin in the beginning, when we met at the restaurant. Other than answering a number of questions, 15 minutes later, I give him the last fact of when Other than answering a number of questions, 15 minutes later, I give him the last fact of when she was carted away. Agent Fagan is writing frantically. A minute of silence, and he slams the tip of the pen on the paper and looks up. Anything else to add? She's done nothing wrong. You keep saying that. We're here to record what happened. Okay, now that you have it recorded, can I go? Agent Fagan gets up, folds his chair, and turns to leave. Can I at least get out of this broom closet? He turns and smiles. I'll see what I can do. That was weird. Thank you for staying with me, Malia. It was nice chatting with you too. Good luck on your writing. I'll see what I can do. A moment later, he opens the door. Come on out. I step back into the main office, consisting of 2 desks and several chairs. I step back into the main office, consisting of 2 desks and several chairs. He points at an empty chair next to the closest desk. Please, sit there. I sit as he walks across the office and goes into a room. For a second, I see Donna. A few minutes later, he's back and he sits at the desk. Looks like your stories check out. Nope, that was weird. Looks like your stories check out. You're free to go for now, but until we get this whole thing resolved, keep yourself available. Where am I gonna go? He shrugs. What about Donna? We're gonna hold her overnight. Why? What's she done? At that same moment, the tall agent opens the door and quickly walks over to Agent Fagan. The color is drained from his face. She disappeared. Where'd she go? Where did she go? We're trying to figure that out. Out. We're trying to figure that out. I chime in. Probably went back to her time, 1999. He looks at me. That's impossible. And yet, he turns back to Agent Fagan. 10 seconds later, she was back. He points at me. Hold him here until we figure this thing out. He turns and steps quickly back into the room. I talked to the chief, and he doesn't have enough It's supposed to be a different female character. I talked to the chief, and he doesn't have enough staff to keep an eye on you overnight in your motel, so you're going to have to stay here. Here? In this little room? I look at the female sergeant. I'm sure his... Oh. I think this is mislabeled on which character is speaking. Okay, so I need to do... This lady's is fine. I talked to the chief, and he doesn't have enough staff to keep an eye on you overnight in your motel, so you're going to have to stay here. Here? In this little room? Agent Hess. He looks at the female sergeant. I'm sure this office has a holding cell. We do, Agent Haster, but this is Friday night. Friday night? There's only one cell, and by 3:30, we usually have a couple of drunks. What about county lockup? It's 40 miles and 2 hours from here in Ukiah. We usually take prisoners out there on Wednesdays. As you already know, we're short-staffed, so a special trip would be out of the question. I'll take her back to Ukiah with us. She shakes her head. It'll be dark soon, and driving that dirt road at night is dangerous. It's the same road we came out this morning. She nods. We'll be fine. It's a long drive in the day. It's twice as long as night. I wouldn't recommend it. There's a moment of silence. Then the sergeant says with a tentative reluctance, Hello. Okay. It's a long drive in the day. It's twice as long as night. At night. I just did that twice. It's a long drive in the day. It's a long drive in the day. It's twice as long at night. I wouldn't recommend it. There is a moment of silence. Then the sergeant says with a tentative reluctance, She's not a flight risk, nor is she dangerous. So I can take her to my house for one night as long as the FBI is going to pay my overtime. He huffs, then says, Not the best signal. He huffs, then says, Not the best solution, but I guess it's all we have. We'll pay your overtime. And pay to put her up and feed her. It's supposed to be Donna's voice, not his. He frowns. That too. She looks at her watch, then pushes away from the wall. I'm about to end my shift. I can take her with me now. Okay, but I want her back at 7 in the morning. My shift starts at 8. Will that be acceptable? 8 it is. She looks at me. You're not going to be any trouble, are you? I smile. To sleep in a real bed with no drunks to contend with? No trouble at all. With that, she turns and walks out of the room. I begin scooping all of my personal items into my purse, but the agent grabs the $100 bill. I'll keep this for now. Be my guest. I can't use it here anyhow. He opens the door and I step out of the little office. Frank is sitting at a desk. He looks up. They letting you go? No, I've got to spend the night with the sergeant. Sergeant. A woman. Sandy? Yes, that's okay. Better than a cell. The sergeant steps over and hands Frank a scrap of paper. We'll be staying at my place. Drop by for dinner if you like. He looks at the paper. What time? 6 is good. He smiles. She takes my arm roughly, then leads me out the glass front door along the sidewalk. Once out of sight of the office, she lets go of my arm. Thought you were going to have to stay in lockup. That was a close call. Close call? We hardly ever have drunks on Fridays. Saturday, they start dribbling in. You lied to the FBI? She grins. I wasn't going to let you stay in that stinking cell. She stops, turns to me, and puts out her hand. Sandra Bunting. I take her hand. Donna Hendricks. We walk through the parking lot and up to an old box-type car with running boards. We walk to the parking lot and up to an old box-type car with running boards. We get in and she starts the engine. What year is this car? 1937 Ford. It took me 3 years and 2 old junks to buy it. Old junks? Since the end of the war, no one can buy a car without having another car to trade in. Why is that? I don't know. Something about the war and not enough metal. That's right. The war ended just a few years ago. She looks at me. You really are from the future? Not willingly, I assure you. Can I ask another question? If it's about the case, I can't say, but anything else? In my time, there are many women on the police force, but women were not allowed to be cops in 48. How is it that you're a sergeant? She smiles as she backs out of the parking space. I came on the force during the war when there were no men around. My dad was chief, and being police is all I can ever remember wanting. Once in, because of the shortage of men, I rose up in the ranks. He's the current chief? No, he's gone now. Died of a heart attack in 46. I'm sorry. Me too. He was the best. She pulls around and lines up with the driveway. Being here can't all be bad. Quite the contrary. I really like the slower pace of your time. She pulls onto the road with no traffic for as far as the eye can see. What's it like in your time? Trust me, you wouldn't like it. She shifts into second gear. Oh, come on. I'm dying to hear about the future. To start, you would never be able to simply drive out onto the highway without carefully fitting into traffic. Traffic? There would be so many cars on the road, it would not be easy to get onto the highway. To start, you would never be able to simply drive out onto the highway without carefully fitting into traffic. Traffic? There would be so many cars on the road, it would not be easy to get onto the highway. She looks at me like I'm crazy. Where do all the cars come from? Each person owns at least one to get from place to place. Multiply that by 6 billion, and you've got a lot of cars. How did we get to 6 billion? I'm sure you noticed how many babies were being born after the war. Did notice. In fact, almost every woman I know. We call them boomers. Boomers? Baby boomers. The biggest boom of newborns the world has ever seen. Now, take that to the next generation who had a bunch of children. In 99, the next generation has been born. and each time the population has leapfrogged over the last. Not only that, but modern medicine has helped raise the average lifespan to 70, so the older generation is not. Not only that, but modern medicine has helped raise the average lifespan to 70, so the older generation is not dying off as in the past. 6 billion, you say? That's a lot of people. During the 5-minute drive to the north end of town, I paint more of the depressing picture of my time. When she pulls into the driveway and parks, she turns to me. Okay, I get the dark side. Now, how about the bright side? Sorry, it's just the contrast is so stark from here in your time. All I can see is the dark side. Yesterday, we walked in a bunch of tide pools. Yesterday, we walked in a bunch of tide pools, and they were teeming with life. In my time, you're lucky to find a few minnows and a hermit crab or two. Really? What happened? Probably too many people on the planet. Too many mouths to feed. Too much waste and pollution. She gets out of the car, and I follow her into a brown shake house with a wraparound porch. The front door has beveled glass and a purple glass knob. She opens the door without unlocking it and walks in. I follow. See, here is something that would never happen in my time. She removes her police coat and walks to the back of the house. I follow. What would never happen? You left your front door unlocked. In my time, not only would you lock the door, but also set the burglar alarm. Really? Sounds pretty bleak. Oh, yes. I'm supposed to give you the bright side. Oh, yes. I'm supposed to give you the bright side. We walk into her tidy kitchen, and she points for me to sit at the red formica and chrome. Thanks for the rose, Katie. We walk into her tidy kitchen, and she points for me to sit at the red formica and chrome table as she turns the oven on. I sit. We have computers and internet, though I'm not sure it is entirely a positive thing. What's internet? I think for a moment while she fishes in the fridge and pulls out a whole chicken. Internet is like having a full volume of encyclopedia at your fingertips, while at the same time being able to talk to a friend who lives. I slouched back down. Let me sit back up. That way I can get big breaths. You know what I need to do actually is I'm going to add the cover art because people were asking what book this is. How do I swap these? There we go. Oh, oh. Come back. Okay. Here we go. Image. Now we're swapped. Okay. So here's what we're doing. Okay. Internet is like having a full volume of encyclopedia at your fingertips, while at the same time being able to talk to a friend who lives in China or South America. She stops seasoning the chicken. Just pick up the phone and talk to anyone? No phone. A television screen where you can see that person while you're talking to them. No kidding. They're still working out the kinks, and the signal is sometimes in and out, but I'm sure in a few years they'll have perfected. But I'm sure in a few years they'll have perfected the technology. She puts the chicken in the oven. No phone on a television screen? I've heard of television, but never seen one. In my time, everyone has at least one television, usually two or three, and at least one computer. What is a computer? I try to explain, but fall terribly short of giving her a clear picture of what a computer can do. I try to explain, but fall terribly short of giving her a clear picture of what a computer can do. She pulls a head of broccoli and some carrots from the fridge and carefully cuts them into bite-sized pieces. What about men in your time? Are they different? Are they any different? Everyone is much kinder here, but men are men wherever you go. They're more concerned with the why of things than how they feel. She laughs aloud as she puts 2 teacups on the table. Not likely that would change. She pours the tea and sits across from me. What about Frank Williams? I look at her. Boy, he's a keeper if I've ever seen one. If I was planning on sticking around, I'd latch on to him and never let go. Oh, I had that correct the first time. I look at her. Boy, he's a keeper if I've ever seen one. If I was planning on sticking around, I'd latch on to him and never let go. She reaches back and releases the tight bun at the back of her head. A cascade of blonde, wavy hair drops to her shoulders. Oh, good, because I've had my eye on him since grammar school, but I can't seem to catch his attention. Oh, good, because I've had my eye on him since grammar school, but I can't seem to get his attention. In my time, women ask men out on dates. Women run corporations. Women are part of the workforce. What about staying home and raising children? That too. Thing is, they have the choice, mostly. We sit drinking tea and comparing my time with hers while the kitchen fills with the delicious. We sit drinking tea and comparing my time with hers while the kitchen fills with the delicious smell of chicken cooking in the oven. I goofed it. All right. We sit drinking tea and comparing my time with hers while the kitchen fills with the delicious smell of chicken cooking in the oven. A knock comes at the front door. She turns to me. Probably Frank. You want to get it? I get up and saunter the long hall to the front door and open it. Hey, you. He smiles and walks in, removing his white cowboy hat. Quite a day. You could say that, but it's ended well. I whisper. You still got the stocks. I do. Can I ask you to keep them for the moment while I figure this whole thing out? Be happy to. I start back toward the kitchen, and he walks beside me. When we enter the kitchen, Frank nods. Hey, Sandy. Her whole demeanor changes. She's stiffer and businesslike. Frank, have a seat. Want a beer? He takes a chair and turns it backwards, then sits facing the back of the chair. Beer sounds good. She steps over to the ancient fridge with the big coils on top and pulls a thick brown bottle with no label and hands it to him. That sounded like a really weird cadence to me. I don't like the way that flowed. She steps over to the ancient fridge with the big coils on top and pulls a thick brown bottle with a no label and hands it to him. Dinner will be ready in a few minutes. He takes the wire lever that holds the cap on and flips it back. The beer spritzes and begins to overflow, but Frank puts it to his lips and catches the overflow. Once the beer is calmed, he says, Tastes like old man Flanders beer. The very one. He turns to me. You okay after the grilling they gave you today? It wasn't too bad. Sandra saved me from spending the night in the jail. He looks at her. It's Sandra now. She drops the broccoli and carrots in the sizzling pan and glares at him. She drops the broccoli and carrots in the sizzling pan and glares at him. It's always been Sandra, just no one will call me that. Frank takes a sip of his beer. Oh, I didn't know. Sorry. He tries out her name. Sandra. He turns to me as I feel a tingling start at my feet and quickly climbing my body. This happened in the police station. In a second, I go from Sandra's kitchen to some shop with a horrid odor of ink. After resting up from that long, tedious drive to Fort Bragg, I call another cab to take me to a print shop. If all of the pens refuse to write in that little red book, maybe a printer can come up with something that will. The cab drives me a few blocks into town and pulls up to a corner shop and points. Your print shop. I get out of the car, give him a 20, tell him to keep the change, and walk into the shop. The cab drives me a few blocks into town and pulls up to a corner shop and points. Your print shop. I get out of the car, give him a 20, tell him to keep the change, and walk into the shop. When I open the door, a small bell tinkles over my head, and a short, fat man with wire-rimmed glasses steps in from the back. Can I help you? I'm wondering if y'all can print a few sentences into my book in permanent ink. He gets an incredulous look. I'm too busy to. I'll pay whatever it takes. It's pretty important. Let's see the book. I fish the little red book from my purse, open it to the first blank page, and hand it to him, noticing that the last sentence is about me handing the book to him. What do you want me to say? I jump back to my time. What does that mean? Not for me to say, y'all. I'll have to charge $20, and I can have it for you tomorrow at noon. I'm sorry, y'all, I need it now. Madam, I'm running a job at the moment. That is due by the end of the day. I'll pay $200. He is silenced with my offer. How about in a half hour when I finish this job? A half hour is good. I'll take the book and be back in a half hour. He hands the book to me and walks through the curtain to the back. I look at my watch and it is 5:30. I look at my watch and it is 5:30. I turn and walk out the door and into a heavy fog that rolled in during the few minutes I was in the print shop. Earlier in the cab, I spotted a bar on the next corner, and I could use a cocktail. I walked through the blanket of fog with moisture forming on my upper lip when I reached the corner bar and opened the door. Longshoremen types in fishy work clothes sit at the bar. Normally, I would turn and find another bar, but the fog is thick, and I don't know my way around the town, so I'm stuck with this one. I walk through the door, and I'm not sure if I'm relieved or insulted because not one of these lummoxes even turns to look. I'm used to turning heads. I walk to the end of the bar and find a stool. A young, studly-looking guy with a small goatee and studious-looking glasses steps over and asks in a loud voice over the din of revelers, "What'll you have?" "A Manhattan, y'all." He nods and steps back at the center of the action. What'll you have? A Manhattan, y'all. He nods and steps back to the center of the action. Apparently, these are all fishermen, because over the minute it takes for my drink to arrive, the fish haul stories get bigger with each storyteller. I sit quietly on the stool, sipping my drink and listening to the drunken fish stories, hoping the printed ink will work. Exactly 25 minutes later, I take my last sip, drop a 20 on the counter, and walk back out into the quiet of the fog and the darkened streets. The walk to the print shop is almost creepy. The fog is so thick I can hardly see the streetlight above my head. When I reach the print shop, the lights are on, but the door is locked. I knock. The little man comes from behind the curtain. Ooh, that was spooky. Yikes. The little man comes from behind the curtain and unlocks the door. He waves me in. I just finished. Give me your book and I'll set up to print it. I just finished. Give me your book and I'll set up to print it. I hand him the book. It's got to be permanent ink, y'all. He smiles. I have some old India ink from the 50s. Again, what do you want it to say? I jump back to my time. I open the book to the next page with no type and point. In the middle of this blank page, in big type. Have a seat. It'll take me. Yeah, that was right, dang it. Have a seat. It'll take me a half hour to set the type. I sit in the uncomfortable metal folding chair and pick up the only magazine about golfing. God, I hate golfing. In a half hour, he comes out and smiles. Type is set. Want to watch it print? I stand and walk into the back room. A black machine the size of a Volkswagen stands in one corner of the room with modern copy machines scattered around the space. He points at the machine. It's a Heidelberg. I panicked about having to say that. It's a Heidelberg printing press from the 1800s. He says with a flare of pride. Has he invited me into this little world of printing to show off this monster? Has he invited me into his little world of printing to show off this monster? It certainly is big, y'all. And it runs as good as. And it runs as good today as it did in 1896 when it was made. It's the only press I have that will accept India ink without going nuts in some way or another. He points at a round platform the size of a large serving platter. Your type is set and the book is positioned. Are you ready? I nod, trying to look as excited as him. This has been a print shop since before the Second World War. I took it over about 10 years ago, and this press came with the building. I think it's too heavy to move, and these wood floors wouldn't hold up to the weight. I hardly ever get to use it. He reaches down to a large switch, and a loud motor whirs to life. He has to speak loud over the sound of the motor. It was built as a hand-operated press, but in the 30s, the motor was added. I yell, "All this, y'all, to print one page?" He grins. "But what fun." He pulls a metal lever, and the press jumps into action. The two round plates sandwich half of the little red book, cycle through, and come to rest. Cycle through and come to rest back where they started. He quickly turns the machine off, and it whirs to a stop. The very moment the motor is completely silent, while the little man is unclamping the book from the lower plate, Donna pops into existence. She's in a sitting position and falls hard against one of the modern printers with a bang. The little man turns fast. "Where did you come from?" Always quick on my feet in these circumstances, I say. Always quick on my feet in these circumstances, I say. "I let her in, y'all, when you were fiddling with the Heidelberg. I used the proper name of the machine to distract him, and it works." "You remembered the name." I put out my hand and helped Donna to her feet. I put my index finger to my lips in a quiet gesture while digging in my purse for the cash. I pull two $100 bills and trade them for the book. He says as he hands me the book, "Keep it open for a few minutes while the ink dries." I take a stunned Donna's hand and pull her through the curtain, out the front door, and around the corner out of sight of the little man. "Donna, where have y'all been?" "Donna, where have y'all been?" She leans against the stucco wall. 1948? A car zooms past as she speaks, and I'm not sure what she said. What? The year 1948. What does that mean, y'all? She tries to explain, but whatever she says makes no sense. It finally sinks in. For the last 5 days, y'all's been living 50 years in the past? She nods. How is that even possible? I don't know, but I assure you this. How is that even possible? I don't know, but I assure you that is where I've been. I flew to San Francisco for a day, and now I'm under arrest for trying to pass money from our time. Two FBI guys spent the day grilling me. I don't know how I got there or how I get back. Two FBI guys spent the day grilling me. I don't know how I got there or how I got back. I blow on the freshly printed page of the book, trying to hasten the drying process. I think this book has something to do with it. I found it on y'all's bed in Elk. So the sea breeze in Elk does exist, and I was staying there. I was beginning to doubt myself. So the sea breeze and Elk does exist, and I was staying there. I was beginning to doubt myself. rain is so loud. I'm giving it a break to see if this little cluster of storms will move because my microphone's picking it up. Jeez. It's supposed to be past any minute. Oh, maybe not. Hold on. Oh, I think we just started another cluster. Let me give it a few minutes. If anybody's on and wants to chat about anything book related, let me know and we can visit. I see Mackenzie on there, but I don't know. Not Mackenzie. I don't know why I just said that. Ms. Key is on here. Maybe. Can you comment if you're on here? Because it's not showing you as a viewer. It's just showing you joined. So the sea breeze and elk does exist, and I was staying there. I was beginning to doubt myself. Now y'all are back, what do we do? First, I need the business section of a newspaper. I'm taken aback. Really? This is the first thing y'all wants to do? While we were in San Francisco, I invested all of the jewelry I had on me into IBM stocks. I want to see if I'm rich. We? Frank and I. Gone 5 days and y'all got a guy. Even in this foggy light of the overhead street lamp, I see her blushing. Frank's not just any guy. Frank's not just any guy. Y'all in love. I swear, girl, I thought I moved fast. It's not like that. It's not like that. He flew me to San Francisco and back. What's the starry-eyed love thing all about then? She takes a deep breath. Okay, we did have a pretty terrific time in the city. I want to follow this statement, but she changes the subject. Let's find a newspaper. We walk toward the middle of the little town, ending up at Headland's coffee house. We walk into an almost empty but warm room with a single musician and his acoustic guitar who sings a quiet blues number. The fog didn't help the drying of the type, so I leave the book open on a table and walk up to the counter. I order 2 coffees while Donna flips through pages of a San Francisco Chronicle left on the next table. Hang on.